All right, this brings us to our speaker spark, who this morning is Gary Pincus. And the topic is My Journey as a Reformed Jerk, and From Asperger's to Deep Connection. I'm really looking forward to hearing this story now. All right. So Gary Pincus has been blessed by numerous downloads over the years from the masters. He will describe his journey as a Houdini kid, a bodhisattva with no memory of past lives. During his talk, he will be transmitting spirit, enlightened healing frequencies from divine source, and doing a meditation connecting to these healing frequencies. I'm really looking forward to that, Gary, very much. Gary is a master alchemist who holds compassionate space for transformation and healing. His ability to clear stuck energy is unparalleled. Gary's innate sense of perception enables him to identify and release stagnant energy that has been blocking optimal health and vitality. Gary is a compassionate, gifted healer with tremendous integrity. So please help me give a warm circle welcome to Gary Pincus.
Thank you. So, format I was told to follow is to talk a bit about my past. And so I'm going to go back and start in childhood. In fact, one of my earliest memories, I don't know if this was something made up or real, it was almost like hiding, afraid to be seen. As a child, I know I spent a lot of time reading. I was highly intelligent, and I ended up in some of the what they called special progress schools classes in New York City, which basically was skipping a year. So, well, we'll give you 3 years worth of curriculum in 2 years. Basically, it was skipping a year, and I was always one of the youngest in my class anyhow. So by skipping a year, it ended up putting me in with the other kids who were 2 years older than me, and I was already lacking in social skills. So that became really challenging. I graduated high school at 16 and college at 20, and got married coming right out of college. But I'm skipping a bit. High school, I didn't fit in. I tried fitting in with various crowds, and I finally just, some of the kids hanging out on the street is where I finally fit in. The original outlaw motorcycle gang was called the Misfits, because all the misfits I did go move on, get a by the way, if anyone can't hear me, let me know. I'm getting a little screenshot saying my internet connection is unstable, so maybe a little bit of blurriness there.
Gary, would you talk about the Misfits again? Because we did miss what you said about the motorcycle gang.
Let me get back to it in a moment too. Thank you. Hang on, something is. I got some sort of pop up in the interfering. Okay. I did have a small circle of friends when I was in college, and started smoking pot when I was 17. I really liked it. That became my drug of choice, and I did it every day for 15 years. Any drug, any addiction opens the door to entities, to possession in various ways. I did experiment with a lot of other drugs, and I guess the good news is that the drug of choice was pot, because in a lot of ways it's much less harmful than most other drugs. And that, that's a judgment on my part, of course. I did get my master's in psychology in spite of everything I had going on. And my first marriage only lasted 2.5 years. And I ended up I had a friend who was coming to visit me in California, and I ended up, he got as far as New Mexico, ran out of money, stayed there to work and stayed. So when I finished, I did not like California at that time. I was in the Los Angeles area, Vietnam era, and it was chaotic. It's in some ways similar to the times we're in now. without the pandemic. I left to go to New Mexico and ended up meeting somebody I just really aligned with very well, and he was a biker, and I ended up opening up a motorcycle shop. So I'm coming back to the part about the misfits. We were building choppers and mainly hanging out with outlaw bikers for the most part. And I finally started thinking, if everyone I'm hanging out with has been in jail previously, where am I going to end up? So that only lasted about 6 or 8 months before I closed it down. And I mentioned about Misfits. The original motorcycle gang was called the Misfits because they didn't fit in with anyone else except each other. And that was pretty much my experience. I try as I might, I couldn't fit in with people. I mentioned about Asperger's. I didn't find out anything about that until many, many years later. I ended up in about, I had one other marriage and one other long-term relationship, each of which lasted about 2.5 years, which anyone who's studied romantic relationships, that's about the limit to how long the romantic part will last if there's not something deeper underneath. And before I met my current wife, it's actually a girlfriend. We've been together almost 11 years, and I do say wife. So if I switch back and forth and say girlfriend and wife, it's the same person. I had moved to Salt Lake City to work with a personal growth group and ended up meeting her online there. So backing up from there, because I'm kind of skipping around, what ended up opening me up, there was a part of me attracted to that energy of being on the edge, the motorcycle gangs, things like that. And a lot of the friends I had when I was still living in New Mexico died in their 40s from alcohol and drug overuse, not necessarily overdoses, just, it killed their bodies. So again, I'm fortunate to have survived that. I definitely had angels looking out after me. I know there was a number of times when things were going totally crazy and I just got a message, don't go there. And I said, yeah, but I gave my word. This is before cell phones. And the message became so overwhelming that as I got in my vehicle, I had to turn around. It's like my guides were beating me over the head. Don't do this. And some of those, I honestly can't say what would have happened if I'd gone, but the message was so strong that I had to listen. So that's a big part, learning to listen. Times when I didn't, sometimes the consequences were not so good. Alignment with spirit and intention. We were talking earlier about writing down our intentions for the week. I made a living as an artist for 12 years. And I was pretty happy staying by myself and occasionally seeing people and just working on my artwork. And I remember one time, I didn't even have a scale, but for a year I'd been saying to myself, I want to lose 5 pounds. I want to lose 5 pounds. And one day I looked in the mirror and I had no clothes on and said, I've got love handles. I want, that's what I want to go away. Next morning, they were gone. I wish I could tell people how to replicate that, but I think maybe the point is clear intention and being aligned. I'd have a heck of a business going if I could tell people how to replicate that result all the time. But it's a good example of what can happen. There were so many cracks in my defenses, my heart wall. I had a huge wall around my heart where I really didn't let anyone in. And over time, with the personal growth work I was doing, I started learning how to open that. I had some really good mentors. I was mentioning something about downloads, a lot about downloads. One time I was in a workshop and we were doing a process one-on-one where we're talking, whatever topic we were talking about. And I felt this ball of energy bigger than my hips, about the size of, say, a 55-gallon drum around my hips, like a beach ball sized and shaped ball of energy. And said, I don't know what this is, but something's shifting in me. And everyone in the room, including the person I was talking with, ignored it. I noticed it, and there was one other woman in the room who noticed it. And just out of coincidence, I hadn't talked to her for quite a few years, and I got a call from her on Facebook Messenger yesterday afternoon, and I couldn't answer it, and she called again. And her name's Pam. I said, "Hi, Pam." I said, "I didn't call you." So she was hurting. She needed some help, but she was the one who had noticed what that energy was, and so we did some energy work to help heal where she was hurting. The woman I'm in relationship with now, we met online. I was living in Salt Lake City. I'd moved up there to work with a personal growth group, and she was guided by spirit. She was driving back. She was living in Tucson and driving back from Southern California to see her son play in a soccer tournament. And on the way back, she's listening to David Hawkins, the author of Power versus Force and a few other books. And she hears this voice saying, "Go to Spiritual Singles and register." And her answer was, "I'm not even looking for a relationship." And the voice repeated itself. And she said, "Okay," asked a friend to help. And she did this very short, 3 or 4 sentence description of who she was. And I responded, and we started corresponding and talking to each other on the phone for an hour or two every single day. And 2 weeks later, I flew down to see her. And 2 weeks after that, I packed up everything I owned and moved in with her. Not a good recommendation to do something quite that precipitously. It was a tough journey in some ways, but she had been dealing with a family member who was severely addicted, and she was emptied. And that was my role in her life, was to come in and really support her and the family member, who, by the way, has been clean now for almost over 10 years, almost 11 years. She did get sobriety and total. She was after 7 shoulder surgeries. She became addicted to prescription painkillers, and the success rate of getting off that's about 2%. So she's one of the 2%. So working on her, we're constantly clearing entities and envisioning things. One of the stories that went with it, she had forged some prescriptions. And by the way, this is something not, even though it's being recorded, anyone listening, please don't repeat this, since it is a family member. But she had gone to court, and the lawyer said, "This judge always gives jail time." And we're saying, no, we don't want to raise the grandkids ourselves, because her husband was useless. The father of the kids, was also addicted. We said she needs to get probation and no jail time. Turned out both the lawyer and ourselves were correct. She got sentenced to 2 days time already served. So the lawyer, that judge always gave jail time, and in this case, he did it for the time already served. You can create all sorts of miracles being in the light. Part of what I was saying about clearing entities, anyone using any substance, even tobacco, opens a doorway for entities. Clearing entities is an important thing, but it's not something taught in many religions and schools. Entities can be anything from just like a benign parasite. And when I say benign, they're not creating much harm, but they still take a portion of people's life force energy. And it can also be something, as one of my friends had an entity attachment that said, "Drive off that cliff." And she spent several months in the mental hospital after surviving the fall off that cliff. So they can be anything from relatively benign, anything taking your life force energy. Benign is probably not the correct terminology, but to something that is highly life-threatening. So removing them to get to what's underneath that, and then really work on healing and being in the light. What I find is being connected to spirit, whatever word we want to use for God. Buddhists talk about the billion names of God. I like using words like all that is, divine source, a few others, divine masculine, feminine combined. The photo that we posted earlier, I chose it's, everyone knows about Stonehenge. Stonehenge is one of the points for the divine masculine on the planet. That particular photo was the stones of calmness, one of my wife's favorite places to visit. And it's an anchoring point for the divine feminine. And the green light that is in that photo is a good example of the emerald green light that comes through for healing. One of the colors associated with the heart. Traditionally, get red, orange, yellow, green. So green is the heart. But there's other colors that are also associated with the heart. So we got part of the photo. There we go. So yeah, that's a very magical site. And as we go through the meditation today, I'll probably be doing something with bringing in green light. And I think that might be trying to think Asperger's. I mentioned about Houdini Kid. I'm going to mention a name. Leslie Lupo is a friend of ours. And in fact, she's gone to the Stones of Calmness with my wife. She had been killed in a stampede of horses and was out of her body for 10 minutes. And after coming back in, she had a lot of amnesia, but she also had memories of where she had been when she was on the other side, and became a very talented psychic and healer I don't know if I should say as a result of being out of her body like that, but it had a lot to do with it. While she was on the other side, she was asked, if I stay here instead of coming back, what would be my job? And it would be assigning volunteers to come in to areas where there's a lot of shadow, a lot of darkness. Basically, bodhisattvas who would come in with no memory of their past lives, and they would have, and she called them Houdini kids because they would have to find their way. They'd be in families and cultures that didn't accept them. And their mission was to come back to the light, bringing in the light, finding their way into the light. So just like Houdini would have to find his way out of manacles. So when this first began, very often people didn't last for very long. The milieu that they were in ended up killing them in one way or another. But they brought in a little more light, so the next person and the next person had it easier and easier. Any of you who, a lot of people have memories of past lives. A lot of people have no memory. So you have no memory. There's a possibility you may be a Houdini kid, that you were a volunteer coming in here to bring in light, and you really had a tough path finding your own way to the light. Asperger's, I had no idea that I had Asperger's until I was involved with my wife, and she's a therapist and about 42 years experience as a trauma therapist. She and another friend of hers who specializes in Asperger's said, oh yeah, Gary's got Asperger's very seriously. So when I'm in my head, I don't connect. I'm in my heart, I create a huge connection. So anyone you know who has difficulty connecting and learning to be in their heart, I mentioned about Wall Around the Heart. Dr. Bradley Nelson created something, the emotion code, and he's got several others, body code, and one other. He talked about heart walls and removing heart walls. He's got a process. I use a different process, basically just being in the light. When we're being held in the light. Somebody mentioned earlier about talking to Siri and getting a definition. I looked at the definition of compassion. I think it came through on Wikipedia. It was the definition of compassion I saw was pitiful there. I talked about pity and feeling sorry for somebody. My definition of compassion is unconditional love without judgment and with forgiveness. And if we can add in joy, going back to Dr. David Hawkins, and I'm going to backtrack again. When I first contacted my wife, I sent her several sentences, and I happened to quote something from David Hawkins, who she'd been listening to for hours on her way back from California to Tucson. So, I mean, I had no idea she'd been listening to that. So, yeah, this was like spirit saying, how can we take these two people who are almost, something like 800 miles apart and get them together? When spirit is guiding us, there's a way. I think with that, I'm going to go into a meditation. So basically, this is about safety. If I say anything, or if anything in my wording is something that doesn't resonate with you, either change the wording or just know you're safe, that we're asking for a container from the masters by spiritual law, by your highest self and your oversoul, to really create a safe container. And as we're held in this container of light and connecting to divine source, just know that you're safe. You're being held in compassionate love. And I'm going to add another piece, that compassion is what created the universe and beyond, probably the multiverse, and connects everything in the universe. I think everyone here would agree with this quote. My favorite quote is, all know that a drop of water becomes part of the ocean. Not all know that the ocean becomes part of the drop of water. So there is no separation. So allowing yourself to become part of all that is. Take in a deep breath. And just exhale. Allow that life force energy, the chi, the prana, to fill your heart, fill your body. And breathing in from behind your heart once again, filling in with life force energy, and then sending the breath up, connecting into the great central sun, connecting to the I am presence and the heart chakra of the great central sun, and then bringing that energy back down as golden white light, coming back down into the earth, to the room you're sitting in, and surrounding your energy field with golden white light, polishing your aura. I'm circling around with my hand to represent like a whirlwind circling around, keeping your energy field, your aura, no more than about 3 feet, no more than about 1 meter from your core. And letting this golden white light polish your energy field, sealing and healing any cracks, any punctures, any wounds, any instability in your energy field, so you have a container to hold the light. And then letting the golden white light pour in from your crown, balancing the left and right brain hemispheres, coming in behind the eyes, between the ears, filling you with golden white light, healing energy. And just allow yourself to feel this as this process goes on. Any thoughts, any feelings, any judgments of self or others, any emotions from now or from your past, just allow that to move through, knowing that you're safe and being held by your angels, by your guides, by your guardians, and nothing can harm you in this space. So allowing anything that needs to be released to show up and be transmuted between the ears, behind the eyes, and opening up your hearing, opening your ears to clear audience, hearing messages from spirit, from other realms. And then letting your gaze and the energy drift down to your forehead, to your third eye, decalcifying the pineal gland, opening the third eye, allowing you to see things on other dimensions. And then allowing the energy to drift down to your throat. As we do this, notice if there's any place in your body where there's any tension, any discomfort, and just notice what's going on. So going down to your throat, following it with your gaze, allowing your throat to open up so it's safe to really speak your truth, and being able to speak your truth from your heart, connecting this energy to your heart, letting the energy, the golden white light, drift down your collarbone into your heart. And again, breathing in from behind your heart, filling your heart with life force energy. And if you've created any walls around your heart to protect yourself, with your permission, allow these walls to begin to dissolve, to allow in feelings, allow in other people, allow in their love. Know that you have boundaries, so if somebody's coming in and attacking you, that you're safe. It's a true strength, your true power is in your vulnerability. And that doesn't mean, again, that you don't have boundaries, that you're not safe. You are safe. So if there's anyone who feels that it's not safe to be vulnerable, maybe say silently to yourself, I am safe. I am loved. I am protected. And I am enough. And just feeling this love and light filling you. And then moving down, drifting down to your power center. Allowing that to open. Anything in this lifetime or any previous lifetimes or ancestral where you've been told or shown or persecuted in any manner or outcast for being the powerful being that you truly are, for connecting to source energy, to the mysteries, that it is safe in this lifetime to let go of any persecution, to allow yourself to be the powerful man, the powerful woman that you truly are, the gods and goddesses that we each are individually and collectively. Just feel this opening up and the safety of being in your power. So as the power comes in from your heart to your throat, you can speak with power. And then letting the energy drift down even further to your second chakra, your creative center, opening up the creativity, allowing you to connect to other people from that place. We all know how powerful it is to connect from the heart, also from the second chakra, the creative center, the womb where women are able to give birth. Very often, this is the place where the inner child may reside in your body. It can be different for every person, but that's very common. So just sending love to yourself and to your inner child. Feeling this love coming in, surrounding you, safety, and drifting into your root chakra, the connection to things on the three-dimensional plane, the earthly plane, and beyond. So many people talk about 5D. Well, there's a lot more than 3 or 5 dimensions. So allowing yourself to expand into whatever dimensions are perfect for you at this time, and knowing that you're safe with your connection to the earthly plane, and taking this connection and sending a ball of energy, a beam of light, dropping a chain down into the earth, connecting into the heart chakra of Mother Earth, connecting into the crystalline core of the earth, feeling the love of the mother. And knowing that this energy, this love of the mother, of Gaia, Mother Earth, is available for each and every one of us. And bringing that energy back up from the earth through the bottom of your feet and letting it be expanded and amplified by huge, beautiful crystals of earth energy surrounding your ankles, surrounding your calves, surrounding your thighs. So as the energy rises up your legs, it's being amplified even more. The love of the mother, the connection to the crystalline core, like the connection to a computer, infinite abundance, infinite knowledge, the entire quantum field coming up to your core, to your perineum, and rising up the central column through the chakras back up to the crown. So you have the divine feminine coming up from the earth, mixing in with the energy that's been coming up from above. Native Americans would talk about Father Sky and Mother Earth. Representations of the divine masculine, divine feminine filling you with love, with protection. And for anyone who would like to experience a higher level of protection, and this is something, give a silent yes if this is something you want. Imagine Michael circling around you from above with his sword, blue light, creating a shield protection with a lapis lazuli blue light, very similar to the light you would see if you looked at a prism, the blue light, a translucent, deep blue light. And this lets in higher vibrational energy, higher vibrational frequencies, and filters out anything negative, anything harmful or that's not beneficial. One of the techniques that's used by some of the schools for psychics for protection is to have a mirrored globe around yourself. So if anything is sent to you as an attack, it's sent back to the attacker. Problem there is that becomes like a war. Who's more powerful? Who can send it the strongest? The blue light is simply a filter, like a reverse osmosis filter. It just doesn't let the bad stuff in. So we're allowing that. And then for anything that you can go of, the photo I had up of the northern lights above the stones of Calmness, one of the anchor points again for the divine feminine on the planet, allowing that green light, the emerald green light, to come through as healing. So imagining Archangel Raphael coming in, sending healing light anywhere it's needed, anything that may have been removed during this meditation, anything you may have let go of that needs to be healed. If it was pulled out, allow that, any wounds from pulling it out, to be healed and sealed. And I'm going to just be quiet for a minute or two. And I don't have chat up, so I'm going to open that up, so if anyone has any comments, I can respond. So just again, allow yourself to feel this energy. And even to let it expand beyond where you're sitting, to fill the room you're in, city, town, county you may be in, beyond that, into all of North America, all of the Northern Hemisphere, all of the Earth, beyond that, into the solar system, into our galaxy, the beautiful Milky Way galaxy with its billions, tens, maybe even hundreds of billions of stars. And beyond that, out into the universe with its billions and billions of galaxies. And beyond that, into the unknown, the multiverse, whatever may be out there. Not your own energy, just the connection to the quantum field. Then bringing that back in as unconditional love and compassion to the universe, galaxy, our solar system, the earth, into where you're sitting, into your own personal energy field, connecting to the divine and the quantum field. Infinite knowledge, abundance, love,